Hi there, come on in. How was your year? How was 1989 for you? Well, I tell you, if you were watching Michigan Outdoors for the past 52 weeks, you saw almost a blur of activity. We've done so many things throughout the year that we're going to bring you a review of tonight. Blow by blow, week by week, the various fishing and hunting and shooting expeditions we went on. It's going to be a fast-paced feature, and I think you're going to enjoy this 1989 in review. I think you'll also enjoy smoked fish and spinach dip. Remember that? It was a winner in our Fish and Wild Game cooking contest. All this and a lot more coming your way, so you stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost. It's Thursday night, time for Michigan Outdoors.
About 10 turns.
Got him.
Got him?
Pretty good.
The bluegill quickly shakes off the tiny teardrop, but Ed Boldazar slides it away from the hole where it can't dance its way back into the water. Steelhead trout like the fast current. Actually, they like to hang along the edge of it in deep runs and pockets that are just below the spillway.
Let me get him. Oh, he's ready. Okay. I came close to him. All right. All right. Nice job. There we go. Number 3.
The wind from the south killed the perch fishing.
That's a big one.
One undersized perch for our fishing party was matched by one undersized walleye for 4 anglers from our shanty.
Oh, it's a small eye.
A small eye.
Sure enough.
Let's take the sightseeing tour that's a popular attraction at Tip-Up Town, a chopper ride over the lake. Cars were on both sides of the pressure crack, and recreational vehicles, and lots of people. How do you like it?
I love it. This is great. This is a party.
You come up every year?
Last year we came up and we came up again. So yeah, we'd like to make it every year.
Fish bite much more delicately in the winter than in the summer. If you watch carefully, you see they open their gills and suck in the bait. They don't strike it. It's sometimes hard to tell when you have a bite. They can inhale a lure and then spit it out. You never know they were there. The wind is perfect. If I stepped out into the open and raised my arms like I saw in Howard Shelley's film, would this big bull hold still or even come back to me? The caribou starts to circle, actually coming in for a closer look. 35 or 40 yards, almost out of range. My arrow was on its way. In slow motion, you can see it against the sky at the top of its arc. But watch the caribou start to run before the arrow gets there. I saw the arrow land by the caribou's back leg. That ended 4.5 minutes of the highest suspense I've ever had while hunting. Got one. Holy cow.
Yeah?
I don't know if I... Oh, All right.
Almost.
Oh, my skunk is over. The winter has taken a turn for the better. Oh, Lordy. Our guide, I'm going to keep him nameless today. He had an excellent goose hunting record up to this point, taking shotgun hunters. And I don't know whether it's just the old Fred Trost 1989 luck or what. But on this day, he couldn't attract the geese with his decoys, flags, or calling because they just weren't around.
much sedentary. Their metabolic rate is down low. They're not doing a lot of moving around. They can probably tough out a normal winter. If we have a normal breakup here, we expect that we'll have lots of deer running around the woods again. If the winter should delay too much into April, we'll certainly lose some deer.
I enjoyed both dishes immensely. The curry had good spicing and good flavor, and as you hold up the potato, you can see it still had the corners on there. It was prepared with care, but I would have liked to seen a little more meat in the soup itself. I like the meatloaf myself. I have to go with Roger.
Is that right?
It was good meatloaf, nice and meaty. And
Gene Leonard took the venison honors with stuffed venison loaf, a truly great recipe.
And that's when I took aim on his head because we're right in I was hunting on the edge of a massive swamp. And if he got in there, he'd have been gone for the rest of the year. And so I aimed for his head, and I seen, man, I can't shoot him in the head.
I guess. His antlers apart would be a tragedy.
And so I dropped down to his shoulder and waited his front leg, left leg to go forward, and I shot him right through the heart.
Wow.
All right.
Get him in the boat quick.
Oh, it was a nice walleye. Ended up weighing somewhere over 8 pounds. Bob Garner's biggest yet, and a real thrill. A lot of people don't realize that there are more big walleye where they fish than they think. This one inhaled the lure, but it could have been just as happy with a crawler harness or a jig and minnow. The secret? Being at the right place at the right time. The oldest story of all in the world of fishing.
The way our habitat is developed, they have few natural predators. You can have some real problems both in their own population, devastating their habitat and causing damage to farms and fields and roads. So trapping, although the way it's regulated, trapping is not going to remove massive segments of the population. Trapping is not an easy thing to do. It still helps maintain some of the controls that nature meant to be there that humans have disrupted.
About any kind of fish you could catch anywhere in Michigan, you catch right here. Catfish, sheephead, crappie, rock bass, smallmouth, largemouth, pike, muskie, walleye, perch, king salmon, of course, and you name it, you can catch it from right here.
Hunting wild turkeys in Michigan was just kind of a dream, you know. Nobody ever thought they'd be able to do it. And here we are.
first place we come to.
Small bird, great eater. Let the guys who've never taken a big one shoot the big ones. Yeah.
After 5 hours of unproductive fishing, he caught this one in a stretch of river where he was expecting a 15-incher. He caught 3 15-inchers from this stretch last year on opening day, which all goes to prove that in fishing, there are never any guarantees. You gonna take us fishing again and catch us some fish?
I'd sure like to.
Thanks, John. Jim and I got a little competitive as the hours wore on, but we were having a ball.
Straight up.
Oh, yeah, there he is. Not a real big one, though.
It's a nice one.
But it's a nice one. The final score, 11 walleye.
The big test for us is when our Sichuan birds go out this spring. We will be putting radios on the birds, and half of them will be birds that come from the pen where the predator has been worked, and half of them will come from a pen where there has been no work with a predator. And we will be looking at differences in survival between the two groups.
Doubles? Well, should I throw back out and try for a triple?
We made the trip last week. The white bass had just begun their run, and fishing was picking up.
Now, this is a smaller one, but I get my money's worth.
There he is. We got him?
This is a big one here. This is a big fish here.
Is it?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, that's a good, that's close to 2 pounds there.
Oh, that's a nice one. Very good, Michael. I was beginning to doubt.
That's a nice fish.
4 pounds or so, that's the kind of bass that puts the frosting on an opening day. The worm tumbles through the water and disappears in an instant. A bluegill sucks in its food by opening its gills, which causes water to rush into its mouth, bringing the food with it. And if you have a worm on your hook, you can see that you can set the hook right away, and that bluegill would be on its way to your stringer. If you don't set the hook, the bluegill might feel it and spit it back out.
Muzzleloaders Village was once more better than ever. Guy and Evelyn Swan coordinated this colorful part of the fair for the 7th year, bringing lots of their colonial friends to populate a living encampment of American pioneers. The pioneer campers were happy to answer questions about the lifestyles they were recreating, educational for the whole family.
Holy cow! Oh my God! What a fish! All right! Holy cow! Hold that up! Whoa! Whoa!
Man, and that was on that tiny dad.
Oh, that's got to be 30 pounds. 25 anyway.
Look at that.
Oh my gosh!
Oh,
I'm all done.
oh boy, I tell
Oh,
you, that's
man
exciting.
alive.
These bays are protected waters of Michigan's Saginaw Bay, but don't be bamboozled by the location. The principles you'll see here can work anywhere bass live and weed beds grow. A pork frog on a weedless hook or on a jig is as close to totally weedless as you can get.
That's a nice fish.
Oh, he's
about 2.5. A little fat it is, too.
look at these. Oh, there's the big one of the. There's the that fish. Holy cats!
Say what, 2 minutes we've been here?
Yeah, just put it in 2 minutes. There she is. Look at that.
Holy cats! That I think you got the winner already.
Oh, my man.
I think that's a keeper.
Oh,
Look at the size of that crappie.
I can't believe this. This is totally incredible.
No?
I can't even believe that I'd catch a crappie this size on a hook. And look how he's hooked.
Oh, look at how big that. Oh, he's a good one.
Look at how he's hooked. In the lip, and he went for this little teeny larva. And I tell you, you know the amazing thing? He's hooked well. They are pretty seedy looking critters.
Jeez, old Pete, that's, holy cow, did that scare me?
Yes.
They are quick. A lot of people
They are
don't
quick.
think, they think of a turtle as being slow, but you see, he's getting up on his haunches
He doesn't
right
like to
now.
be pushed like this.
No, and he will turn around, so you might want to be careful with it.
Now she wants him to come closer.
Over.
At times, this discipline overrides the dog's instincts, but it gives the handler better control when several ducks need to be retrieved. It doesn't take long hours, just frequent time every day working with a retriever to develop this kind of teamwork. This deer is comfortable with cover around it, but watch it bolt when it crosses the clearing. It wants to get to the other side. In the cover, it stops. They almost always do. And watch this fawn bolt when it hears the balloon. That's the problem with groups of deer. Too many eyes, ears, and noses. One move, one sound, one shift of the wind could easily blow your cover, even if you think you're totally concealed. Aside from its periodic checking, a deer that's eating is not as aware as it is when it's walking. And for bow hunters, this is a big advantage.
Some use the Apache draw, which puts the arrow higher under their eye. And I learned to use 3 fingers under, anchoring underneath my chin, running the string right up the middle of my nose. I line up the sight pin with the string and my eye, at the same time squeezing my back to hold my bow arm straight and solid, then relax my hand to release the arrow. As I watched doe and heat being bottled at Buckstop, I saw it coming from a 55-gallon drum, and this was in September.
There's a rooster. Dead bird. That was not my bird. No. Nice shoot, Fred.
Yeah. If it wasn't for you, Dan, we'd have a rooster down on this one.
Good girl. Look, come. Look, come. Look. Good girl. Okay. Out. Out.
Terrific.
Oh boy, this looks good. It's supposed to come out from that side, right across here. Just have to keep alert.
And what about this Indian summer that totally fouled up our bow camp? I mean, deer hunting really took a rest for about a week there in that 70-degree weather. Does that postpone the rut a little bit, or?
Well, the rut's not based necessarily on temperature, it's more on daylight. But I can tell you right now, the animals are very active, and anybody driving in the north ought to be watching out for them.
Small buck. It is a buck? It's a buck. No. Very small.
John's 24-power camera lens could see the spikes, but I couldn't.
That's a doe. It's got tiny little spikes, dude. Little spikes. I sure don't see them.
Out of nowhere, a deer I hadn't seen before tried to skirt the edge of the woods, right along that little grass swale I told you about.
OJ, can you see it? Okay, I gotta shoot it, OJ.
I sure don't get the ones with the big horns, Oj, but I've run into an incredible streak of luck here. 3 years in a row. That's incredible for me. Nice buck. Looks like it's extremely well fed. Is this your first buck?
First one, 2 years.
Holy
I missed it last year.
Mike DeRosa, come on in here. Look at the size of this rack. How many points?
30.
30 points. What? 30 antler points on this. A spread of 22.5, giving it an incredible score of 52.5. Mike DeRosa, you probably have many hunting tales to tell about your years in the woods. Back in the old days, how it was?
Yep.
Yep, uh-huh. Folks, this deer starts his old days. 14 years old, first year hunting. This bottle was 99.75% glycol and water. Less than 1/4% might contain some urea, but the lab couldn't detect it for sure. It's very possible that this is entirely glycol and water. Glycol is a synthetic substance made from the same compound that antifreeze comes from. Glycol is a poison. It's toxic. It has a gooey, oily texture and may enhance odors, at least to humans, but it's not a natural compound.
Now you can see that since 1975, the herd has grown, despite controlled hunting, to a size the DNR feels is too large for the available food supply and too large for the good of the farmers as well as the deer herd in the Pigeon River country. Marv Smith from Bath was a lucky hunter who bagged a 5x5 this year. It's a trophy plus a whole freezer full of venison, a wise use of wapiti, the majestic elk that on its own would literally wear out its welcome in the Pigeon River country.
More problems surrounding Indian fishing cropped up in the Upper Peninsula and in both Lakes Huron and Michigan. The biggest problem facing the fishery in 1990s might well be the Indian fishing issues. But by far the worst thing to happen in 1989 in the area of natural resources was a report by the National Wildlife Federation that condemned many Lake Michigan fish as being unsafe to eat. Now, even though an esteemed group of Michigan State University professors pointed out that the study was flawed and in error, didn't matter. The damage was done, and folks who made their living on Lake Michigan fish were hurt badly.
Looking forward to this new decade of the 90s, it would be pretty easy to get all concerned about the so-called animal rights movement. Not only is trapping a target of the antis, but so is hunting and wearing furs. One state animal rights group has called for the end of bear hunting with dogs. A national group wants people to stop eating what they call a cruelty breakfast, of bacon and eggs. Another national organization disapproves of age-old farming techniques of raising hogs, chickens, and beef. The original strategy of trying to outlaw trapping might have worked if these animal rights activists had centered their activities on that one issue. But instead, they've managed to alienate not only trappers, but hunters, fur wearers, farmers, and anyone who eats meat. They've even alienated much of the medical community that must use laboratory animals to save human life. By promoting animal rights over human interests, these folks have separated themselves from mainstream America, and that's a fact that will hamper their cause considerably in the 90s.
Bob Newman sent us a recipe for smoked fish and spinach dip, and it was a runner-up in our contest last year. Now this is the smoked fish, and it looks like it's overdone here, but actually when you break it apart, it's very, very moist. And that's the way smoked fish should be. It shouldn't be overdone and all dried out. And this has got the regular ingredients that the spinach dip does. It's so popular nowadays. You got your chopped spinach. And I think the trick to this whole recipe is draining the spinach. You want to just wring it out just as thoroughly as possible. You're going to go ahead and add that to your flaked smoked fish. And the only other spices in this is your home-style soup recipe, soup mix. Going to add sour cream and then your chopped water chestnuts. And you want to chop those quite fine because everything else in here is quite smooth. Going to add Miracle Whip just to kind of hold it together and give it the little extra taste that the sour cream doesn't. One of the nice things about this recipe is it's served in its own edible bowl. Take a loaf of your round rye pumpernickel bread and cut a hole out, and then you're going to put the dip in it. But you could use your light rye here if you didn't like the dark. And one of the nice things about this too is it's you can use any kind of vegetables that you like. Here we opted for the cauliflower and carrots and radishes, but if you wanted broccoli or just about anything else you wanted to use, you could here. And I think Bob Garner's really going to like this dip.
Dip of the year, maybe? Yeah, this one is. This one is definitely a favorite. If Popeye had had spinach like this, buddy, I tell you, he just sat around and savored it. He'd have never saved the good guys or anything. Oh, this is really delicious, especially with the smoked fish.
And the fish that's in it, I imagine you could use whitefish or
just about any smoked fish
salmon.
would do, yes. Yep.
You know what else would work really nice with this is chunks of tuna or leftover turkey or chicken or something, especially this time of year.
Anything smoked,
I thought he
absolutely.
was going to say noodles. With noodles, this would be great.
I like noodles with everything, but I'll take half a loaf on this one.
Yeah, this is great.
If this recipe doesn't strike your fancy, we must have tempted you with one of our fish and wild game delights in the past few weeks.
You could substitute this for chili at deer camp.
Oh, yeah.
And you could still get all of the nice after effects.
You know, I think that really there should be some warnings issued with this, and probably some rules laid down.
Camp rules.
Well, camp rules. I think home rules, like you don't have this within 24 hours of coming home.
Yeah. Or,
I mean, I'm sure. It's,
or within 50 feet of an open flame. It's a good recipe, right? Kind of like the combination between chili and good baked beans. It's a wonderful recipe. However, I will say that it does have the potential to be the most musical recipe we've ever had.
yes, it does.
It's a great recipe.
See these beans in here. Some of these are huge, Kathy.
It's going to make sleeping in camp awful interesting.
Oh, will that make it on TV or not? I don't know. That's one of your toss-ups.